We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Monday, November 17th here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. And joining us today is Ki.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Start of the week.
Start of the week. And also Cheska's with us.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So it's Monday and the start of another work week. And just a few days ago, students across the country took the Suneung, or Korea's college entrance exam. And every year it sparks all kinds of talk, not just about how tough the test was, but also about changing trends in what students choose to study. In Korea, students typically choose early on whether to pursue studies in the humanities or sciences, a decision that can shape not just their university major, but even their future career path. There's often talk that science majors have an advantage when it comes to getting jobs. So how are the sciences and humanities faring in terms of popularity among students these days, Ki?
Well, first of all, I couldn't choose because I like both. Then when we talk about jobs, and I've been told in Korea that there used to be a saying where you should look for some jobs that ends up with Korean word 사. So normally referring to high-paying professionals such as 의사, 변호사, 검사, doctors, lawyers, prosecutors. And that tradition sort of carried on until now. Now they look for engineers, programmers, and of course doctors again. And most of these jobs are STEM majors. So there is an even saying 문송합니다. 문과 being liberal arts based, and 죄송합니다 meaning I'm sorry in Korea. So put together, it's like a collaboration. 문과 문송합니다. For not being able to get that high-paying job.
So you say you liked both fields.
Yeah,
what did you end up going with?
I mean, I didn't go to high school in Korea, so I didn't really, choose. But then I ended up going to a business school.
That's also a good choice.
Yeah, but I regret not going to computer program.
What about you, Cheska?
I mean, first of all, congratulations to all the high schools out there for completing one of the most important steps in high school years. I mean, I definitely remember the pressure. And I think in Korea, there is definitely an underlying assumption that STEM majors do have better prospect when it comes to job choices. However, according to an article published in August from Hangyong, a lot of the STEM majors end up choosing to go to med school. So there is actually an imbalance of STEM majors in college as well. And if I remember, since Ki talked about his high school too, I actually applied as an engineer. I was a STEM major, but I transferred to political science in an American college. And one thing I want to mention is, if you remember your time back in 17 and 18, when we were applying for colleges, do you remember what you wanted to do?
It's really hard, right?
Right?
But the thing is, I also entered as like a science major. I used to be a pharmacist major, so I can relate to like the change kind of phase.
Precisely. I think you're so young to decide what you want to do, and which is why I think this flexibility is increasingly important. College is literally called 대학, which means greater education. So I really want our young students to have the opportunity to explore their passion and even discover something that they have not known about before, instead of having to choose their preference or their major depending on the choices and scores from their Suneung, a national admission test. So I do hope that a future school provides more flexibility so students can really find their passion and purpose later in their life. Yeah.
Right, going back to what you said a little earlier, so an analysis of the 2026 CSAT or Suneung preliminary scores, medical schools remain far ahead in terms of competitiveness. So med schools in this whole area projected at around 285 points, with regional med schools at 275. By contrast, even the most popular science majors like SNU's Advanced Convergence major, Yonsei's System Semiconductor Engineering, and Korea University Semiconductor Engineering, these are the top 3 schools in Korea, all fall below med school cutoff. So it shows that despite the rise of semiconductors and AI, medicine is still the top destination for Korea's highest scoring students. So for a closer look at what we'll be discussing today, let's take a look at the screen. South Korea has long aimed to become a global leader in science and technology, especially in fields like AI and semiconductors. But the road hasn't been easy. While science and engineering remain some of the most sought-after fields among students here, many young, talented people have trepidations about pursuing their careers at home. Today on News Generation, we take a closer look at the data behind the growing trend of Korean scientists heading overseas, why so many young professionals in the field are considering career moves, and what steps society can take to better support and retain top science talent. So as we just saw in the video, it's clear that many young scientists are feeling uncertain about their future here, whether it's career stability, research conditions, or global opportunities are pulling them away. And this issue of Korea's brightest minds in the science field, not just choosing medicine, but also heading overseas, has been around for quite some time. So I've seen headlines about a new study looking at whether Korea's scientists and engineers are considering moving abroad. So can you break down what that survey showed for us, Kim?
Sure. So the Bank of Korea recently had a survey and a report addressing the ongoing brain drain in Korea's science and engineering fields. The report includes a survey of more than 2,700 STEM professionals, and the findings are quite striking. 37% of respondents said they are actively considering a job overseas, and among those in their 20s, the figure exceeds 60%. So if you take a look at the screen now, this is the graph for Korean STEM professionals considering overseas jobs. And if you look at 50s, about 30% of them, 40s, 36% of them, and 30s, we have more, 51%, and 20s, a whopping 62%. And if you look at by sectors, the willingness to move abroad was highest in biotechnology, pharmaceutical, and medical technology. And what is more alarming is that even in areas where Korea traditionally holds a strong competitive edge, shipbuilding, plant engineering, energy, over 40% of experts say they are considering leaving the country.
So the numbers that you just showed us show how serious the situation really is. It's not just a few people thinking about moving abroad. It's a sizable portion of young talent. It's striking that more than 60% of people in their 20s are considering leaving. And that tells us younger scientists and engineers feel that there are better opportunities elsewhere, and people aren't just thinking of leaving. A lot of this outflow is already happening. So, Cheska, how many STEM professions have actually moved overseas?
Yeah, Sujin, you're right. It has actually been happening for a while, and it is not a distant concern. Now, according to the Ministry of Science and ICT, between 2013 and 2021, so in less than a decade, more than 340,000 STEM individuals have left the country, and almost a third of them actually had master's or postdoc kind of level. And what's even more striking is if you look at from the talents that are migrating to the United States, the phenomenon becomes more visible. So in less than a decade, from 9,000 to 18,000 STEM experts have migrated to America and have been working, which is doubling in less than a decade. And things in South Korea at home is not looking the brightest. 316 government-funded scholarship recipients have actually decided to leave the track altogether. So it kind of shows that the structural challenge is not just in keeping the talent at home base, but it's almost keeping the talent who are young and bright-minded to stay on the STEM track altogether.
And what's even more worrying is that students who received government-funded science scholarships, the ones Korea probably most hoped would stay, are now leaving the field or the country. So that speaks to deeper structural problems that go beyond just salary. And this paints a clear picture that talent retention isn't just a workforce issue, it's becoming a national challenge. If Korea can't keep its brightest mind, it's going to be hard to maintain the momentum in AI, semiconductors, biotech, and other future industries. So with this kind of outflow already happening, the key question is why? So what's driving so many young science engineering professionals to consider moving abroad, Jessica?
Yeah, I mean, there are multiple reasons. And, you know, having a financially lucrative opportunity is not the only concern, but it is definitely a major concern. So let's take a look at the screen to find out some of the reasons why STEM majors have reasons to leave. Now, the first one was definitely financial benefit, with almost over 40%. So this was one of the top reasons, followed by opportunities for research and networking. And also one of the most interesting, if you look at the last reason, was opportunity for children's education. So all in all, if you look at the responses, one of the personal opinion that I had was that all the responses sort of show the stability towards future, whether it be financial benefits to research opportunities and guaranteed opportunities to work to children's education. I think it all ties into what the STEM experts want in their future stability. Now, if we come to talk about the salary, the matter becomes actually quite more serious. So according to a STEM expert, for one to receive its top salary, it takes about roughly 13 years, and the top salary would be around $366,000 US. Now, a domestic STEM expert would not only receive just a third of that, but it would take much more years to get to that level. So it's not just about, how high the salary is, but it's also about the time that it takes to reach that level. And for young generation, as Key mentioned, I think a lot of our MZ generation cannot accept the fact that it is more time served rather than, how much output or productivity we can generate. So I think that this is one of the reasons that it makes it very difficult for STEM major to want to stay in the country.
So these numbers really show how stark the gap is. It's not just that overseas salaries are higher, the fact that it takes 6 more years in Korea to reach the top pay bracket suggests a broader structural issue, one that directly affects motivation, retention, and long-term career planning. And for a generation that prioritizes performance-based rewards, that difference is quite hard to ignore. So pay is clearly a major factor. But when these professionals actually move abroad, what aspects of this time their work environment do they find more satisfying compared to Korea, Key?
So some of that Cheska already mentioned. What's particularly interesting is that when the survey focused on Korean STEM professionals currently working abroad, the one especially a single area where satisfaction in the job environment was noticeably higher than in Korea was the research ecosystem. So it shows that beyond salary, factors like international collaboration with other parties, other talents, access to cutting-edge research infrastructure, and overall research environment play a major role in career decisions. And when you talk about STEM major, that's understandable. And other key considerations include promotion opportunities, job stability, and like Cheska said, children's education, all major factors shaping where these professionals choose to work. And in Korea, the relatively short career lifespan in many science and engineering fields is another issue that pushes talent to look elsewhere.
And we mentioned a lot of different factors, such as the pay or like the environment. Just now, for you personally, what do you think is like the biggest issue? What would be for you personally?
I mean, if you have kids, obviously, children education environment. Can you just leave the children to go to school and go to work? Because sometimes when you are in major research, for example, then it takes a lot of time, right? For stem cell majors, they sometimes have to put hours and hours just to get the results right? And they don't get that much of a vacation. That's probably they're giving better working environment in overseas, whereas in Korea, unfortunately, compared to overseas, it's looked less appreciated, it seems. So other than med school, of course. So hopefully, I think if we can provide a better environment in Korea, then it would change those talents' minds and bring back to Korea.
So what about you, Cheska? You actually wasn't an engineering major. Do you think what could have been done for you to stay in that field?
I think he mentioned something really interesting because a lot of STEM majors have to go into PhD, which takes a long time. So family planning actually becomes a very important factor. But I would also like to emphasize compensation. I think it's really important because when you work overseas, I mean, we just talked about the triple in salary and the time it takes to reach that level, right? But for our generation, our MZ generation, I think they really prioritize compensation based on productivity, not just seniority based on the time served. So if we keep that model, I think it's going to be very difficult to keep young, bright talents in the home base.
And family planning, I feel like is really important for women in STEM.
And
we talked also about how people are choosing to go to med school. I feel like a lot of that is because of the compensation as well.
I completely agree, yes.
Right, so to learn more about this, we'll be speaking with a professor in the STEM field and hear firsthand about this talent outflow. And that conversation will take place right after the break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us today is Park Ju-young, professor at KAI's Graduate School of Culture Technology, as well as a School of Computational Sciences at the Korea Institute for Advanced Study. So hello, Professor. Thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Thanks for having me.
So to get right into it, so do you see any STEM students actually opting to work overseas these days?
Yeah, in fact, I do see an increase in the number. As far as those still receiving education are concerned, I think the primary reason is that they are more familiar with the international setting than the past generations already. So living and working abroad is a much less alien concept to them. And they are on average more fluent in a foreign language. So they are gaining more and more information on the work environment, the expected compensation, and career prospects overseas, and those are clearly contributing to the sentiment even before they become professionals later on.
So, Professor, I think you've covered a little bit of that. What do you think driving young STEM professionals to move overseas, and this might be your personal question, but if you've ever considered it, moving to other nation, what were your reasons?
Yeah, so in the case of the young trained professionals who do have real experience, we may need to pay more attention. So I have also read the study by the Bank of Korea that you have mentioned just now, with 40% of STEM professionals wanting to move overseas, which goes up to 70% for those in their 20s and 30s. The biggest reason they gave was the expected income, naturally, but followed by opportunities and wider networking opportunities and career acknowledgement. So this means that it was not just the money, but a mixture with personal growth prospects driving the trend. And Korea's economy and the industry are becoming even more globalized as time goes on, so the trend is expected to continue. So personally, I did work as a researcher overseas before coming back to Korea. And as a matter of fact, I have to confess, I have considered moving back a few times. The primary reason being, in Korea, perhaps naturally, compared with the wider world, the research area felt narrower, meaning that I felt it was not easy to break new ground in the research that I wanted to pursue. So fortunately, I think I was able to find a way, but for a very young researcher, that will still appear to be a very sizable barrier.
Professor, thank you for sharing your personal anecdote. I think it's really important to know about this so that we can actually keep young, bright talents in our home base as well. Now having brain drain become a global phenomenon, as an expert on the field, what do you think are some of the structural changes that need to happen to prevent future brain drain?
Yeah, so first keep in mind that an outflow of talent is not necessarily a negative thing, because it can be productive and valuable for personal growth with a new experience, and we don't want to stop that in an unnatural manner. The really important thing is maintaining the net flow of talent between Korea and overseas, so we must find ways to attract Korean STEM professionals back with their experience and knowledge, and also talented foreign nationals. So to do that, we would need better expected living standards, more opportunities for networking with overseas workers, and also easier ways to start new businesses with the STEM know-how and ideas they have gathered from experience in education. And last but not least, Korea needs to recover the social and cultural atmosphere that encourage young people to pursue STEM, because it's rewarding in more ways than just financially, Because one counterpoint to the appearance in the salary that you mentioned is that living cost is really high in North Korea and Europe in many cases. So, we actually have to consider that as well. And of course, as in any career, it is a satisfaction of pursuing your passion, not something that is dictated by others, in a friendly, respected setting that actually keeps the field vibrant and full of happy people.
Thinking about what you said about how, they should be encouraged to maybe and given more opportunities to also start their own businesses, makes me feel like it's important to create an environment where, it's okay to fail a couple times. And I think that's also really important too. So thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely. The Korean society actually has been pretty strict on success and failure. But with so many opportunities and different technological advances, people will have to be able to try new ideas. And we actually have to be lenient towards failure and reward hard work.
I see, right. So thank you so much for sharing your insight with us today, Professor.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we just heard from a professor who sees this talent shift firsthand and explained why so many students are looking overseas and what Korea needs to improve if it wants to keep them. But the government isn't just sitting idly by on this issue. So Ki, what has the government actually done so far to stop STEM professionals from heading abroad to find work?
Sure. So the government has launched a private and public joint task force this year to address the growing outflow of science and engineering talents and to strengthen efforts to attract top researchers from abroad. Task force acknowledges a widespread concern within the field that Korea simply isn't offering enough incentives to make STEM careers attractive, like just we discussed, or Professor has mentioned. In response, it is working to reshape the ecosystem so that companies, universities, and research institutes can independently recruit, retain, and develop top-tier talents. And the goal is to create an environment where scientific and technological professionals can thrive and choose to build their careers here in Korea.
Right. So the government is taking the steps, forming a special public-private task force to address outflow and retention of STEM talent. So while these efforts are underway, the challenge still remains huge. It's one thing to recognize the gaps in attractiveness, but transforming the system and culture to retain top talent is a long-term task. So that's a broader plan. But what are the concrete steps for next year, Cheska? Are there specific measures included in the budget to train or retain AI and STEM talent?
Yeah, I think funding is really important. And the Korean government has actually decided to allocate 3 times more than its previous levels to invest in AI talent development and GPU infrastructure, showing an expansion and commitment to the global AI race. Now, the plan is to expand as many research opportunities and graduate programs related to AI and build a backbone for world-class innovation. The long-term goal is to cultivate almost 12,000 highly trained AI specialists who will actually lead the technological advancement forward.
So that is a significant increase. Tripling the budget for AI talent development and GPU resources shows the government is serious about nurturing the next generation of tech experts. So as we close today's discussion, Key, what measures do you see as key in keeping STEM talent in Korea?
Yes,
Key in
to
keeping
that
STEM
is
talent.
because, well, when we're young, there are a variety of different jobs that people look for. So first of all, I hope young people look for the jobs that they like and they're passionate about, just like the professors were mentioning. And speaking, that's somewhat relatable to AI. According to the AI Index Report 2025 that was conducted by Stanford University from the US, Korea recorded a net outflow of AI talent last year with 0.36 experts per 10,000 people, placing the country at 35th among the 38 OECD member nations. That clearly says we're sort of falling behind. So we need to have a clear advantage. Fortunately, we do have some world-leading industries like semiconductor for AI, which can lure talents back to Korea. But obviously, we need something more systematical so that a lot of talents can come to Korea for that sort of work.
Well said. So what are your thoughts on this?
I think our interviewer professor mentioned something really important. Brain drain is not the problem, it's the net flow of the talent.
right.
So I think it's really important to make sure that the talent do want to come back to Korea or to their home base so that they know that there are opportunities and the hard work has been rewarded and guaranteed. And also one last thing that professor mentioned was that he really doesn't want too much encouragement in the STEM major and want to give the students the opportunity to really pursue something that makes them happy, so that in the field there are people who are full of purpose and really direction of why they want to do and why they want to pursue something. And I think this is really important because people who really love their job would actually work hard and stay in the field despite the compensation or despite different levels of opportunity. So I think changing that culture is also very, very important.
I agree. So what today's data really shows is that passion isn't the issue. Korea has plenty of bright young scientists. The real challenge is making sure they feel valued and see a future for themselves here. And that's something both society, the government, and institutions will need to work on together. By investing in better research conditions and broader opportunities, Korea can create a science ecosystem where young people don't feel they need to leave to succeed, and where maybe even global talent might want to come in as well. So that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. But News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time with more stories and discussions. A big thanks to Key.
Thank you.
And also Cheska.
Pleasure is always mine, thank you.
For coming in today. And to our viewers, thank you so much for joining us. And we hope that you have the best day. We are
News Generation.